Hello. In Thought for the Day this week, we're looking at God and COVID-19. In the past 2 days, we've looked at two mountains that are part of the landscape that we need to survey. The mountain of God's sovereignty and the mountains of God's promise to reveal his plan to his people. Today, we're looking at two rivers. Both rivers flow through the whole of the Bible, and we need to take them seriously. The first river is illustrated perhaps most clearly in Psalm 1. It says there that the righteous person is somebody who is like a tree planted by the water, which yields its fruit in season. Whatever he does prospers. In contrast, the wicked are like the chaff that the wind blows away. The way of the wicked will perish. We live in an ordered world. Goodness and hard work are rewarded. Badness, unrighteousness are blown away. God is in his heaven. All is well. That's the way the world is or should be. And this kind of thinking goes very deep in us, doesn't it? Every child who cries out in the playground, "It's not fair," is tapping in to that sense of justice and fairness that we know in our hearts is part of what the world should be. There's also a kind of secular version of, particularly when we come to COVID-19, that when things go wrong, it's because the world has messed things up, because we have messed things up, because of the environmental degradation. Therefore, it makes it easier for viruses to spread from the animal population to the human population. We are reaping what we sow. We live in an ordered world. That's the first river. But the second river is rather different from that. I'm going to read you a verse from Ecclesiastes that which is the writer at his most Eeyorish. He says this: "In this meaningless life of mine," he writes, "I have seen both of these, a righteous man perishing in his righteousness, and a wicked man living long in his wickedness." The reality is that although we do sometimes see that hard work and goodness is rewarded and laziness is not rewarded, sometimes it is not like that. Sometimes this world is not fair, is not right, and we grapple with that and wonder what it is that God is doing in his world. I nearly started by saying these two rivers do not meet, but in fact they do meet, and they meet and clash most obviously in the book of Job. Job has friends who come to comfort him after disaster strikes. Their view is of river number one, and it's absolutely clear, because God is always fair. Job, you are suffering, therefore you must have done wrong. That's the logical conclusion. It is the only conclusion that you can come to. Job, in contrast, holds to river number two. He knows that he is right before God. He knows that he's not a wicked man. He knows that this is not a punishment for his sin. And he grapples with it and wants to meet with God and to explain his case, and demands to meet God and explain his case before him. And in the conclusion of the book, we're told that actually it's river number two, it's Job who is right. Those who have stuck to river number one on its own are completely wrong. They've got it wrong. They've misunderstood God. They've misunderstood Job. They've misunderstood the world as it is. we too have those two rivers that lie in front of us as we interpret the world and what happens, particularly in the year of COVID. What is it that's going on? Is it simply that here is something that is bitter, it is God's judgment on wrongdoing? In which case, what wrongdoing? Which bit of what is wrong in the world is God judging us for? Or is there something deeper, something different than that that's going on? We'll look at that in further detail tomorrow.